I think the thing that is the hardest to explain, I guess, is just the incredible grassroots work that Falun Gong practitioners have done in China over the last 25 years. I think this might actually be one of the biggest untold stories, right? But lay this out for me, okay?
Yeah, let me just give you a very brief introduction of what Falun Gong is and stands for. Falun Gong was introduced to the public in 1992 by Mr. Li Hongzhi. It's a meditation regime in the Buddhist tradition. It has the moral principles of truthfulness, compassion, tolerance, and it comes with the 5 sides of gentle meditation exercises. When Falun Gong was first introduced to the public, the people who benefited from practice, start to pass it to their family members and friends. So it became, sort of words of mouth. And later on, the government found out, it really has, health benefits, and also it's good for the morality in society, because if people follow these principles, they become a better person. So the government decided to endorse the practice and showered the founder of the Falun Gong and the practice with recognitions and awards, and even promoted through the government venues at the beginning. And quickly, the practice has a big following of 70 to 100 million people. And then when the group becomes so big, Jiang Zemin, who was the party leader at that time, really felt threatened and decided to persecute this group. So on July 20th, 1999, a huge ruthless campaign of persecution started. I've been talking to a China scholar about why the Chinese Communist Party persecute Falun Gong. And he said it's very simple. The first word, truthfulness, will make the Chinese Communist Party disappear. Because we know, if you read all the newspaper, they're all state-run in China. There's no private media in China. And, it's full of the communist propaganda. If everyone's telling truth, the regime will not be sustainable. And we have a joke in China about the People's Daily, which is the mouthpiece of the Communist Party. The only thing that is true is the date. The resistance is widespread, sending flyers, CDs to people in their mailbox. And many individuals, they send faxes, send emails, and they print information from their own computer, sent to the government officials. And some of the public security bureau chiefs, they were so scared because when they receive emails and phone calls, sometimes from American Falun Gong practitioners, in Europe, and from Taiwan, from everywhere, they got so scared. They said, "Wow, how did you know my name and my phone number? I don't want to get involved in the persecution. Please take my name off your calling list," because they keep getting calling and say, "You shouldn't get involved in sending this person to jail. You shouldn't do this." And some of them, these people, officials, they have their children, relatives living overseas, so they get really afraid to be known to be part of the persecution. So all this emailing, the phone calling, these flyers, these CDs in their mailbox really helped to reduce the persecution pressure. Falun Gong practitioners are known to invented 2 famous software, anti-censorship software. One is called FreeGate. The other one is UltraSurf. These are the 2 anti-internet censorship tools, very powerful, sending information into China, allowing Chinese netizens to access overseas media and websites, social media, news network. These people work in their garage, in their basement, and without government funding, without private company funding, they are the shining example of what a non-violent resistance should be in the face of a powerful economic power, communist China. And they are doing this persistently over the past 25 years. And so the large majority of Chinese people are informed. So it's against the party's interest now. They know it's unpopular. When they see the villagers sending in, from different provinces, sending in with the fingerprint public letters.
Yeah, kind of like a signature. That's
yes,
right. Yeah.
The fingerprint signature. Yeah, the public appeal letters to the government officials. You should not do this to our fellow Chinese citizens. So this is very powerful.
You just reminded me, I remember there's a Freedom House report from a few years ago talking about how, on just general religious freedom and Falun Gong in China, they said, well, of course it's, very heavily persecuted, but in some states or some provinces where this effort that you're describing was the most effective, that level of persecution has been lowered because people just don't want to do it anymore because they realize that this isn't something we should do. One of the things I found most inspiring, right, is, that basically millions of individual people in China going out, taking these materials like the CDs or DVDs and pamphlets and so forth, and going one by one, going to the police stations. I mean, it's like, really? They're going to the police stations, talking to the leadership there. They're, putting pamphlets in people's mailboxes. I mean, imagine, this is a massive grassroots effort. Like, I don't think anything like this has been seen before, right? And very, obviously, incredibly self-directed. I think that's the other element that when I read this New York Times reporting, it sort of suggests this sort of like, dark command and control structure when, the reality is like, how could that even be possible? People don't do stuff like this that way,
Yeah, I should mention that the Falun Gong is apolitical. It's a traditional meditation practice. It doesn't have a political agenda. But what we are trying to do is to end the persecution and is to allow this traditional Chinese culture to revive. Over the past decades, under the AC's Communist Party's rule, people have been deprived of this thirst and this need for spirituality, especially to their spiritual past. The Communist Party believe in, the dialectical materialism. Everything is about, the communist materialism ideology. If we recall the modern Chinese history, since the Chinese Communist Party took over in 1949, they immediately started the so-called anti-fall tradition campaign. Traditional values, traditional beliefs, traditional customs, and traditional thinkings. And then they felt that that was not enough to eradicate the traditional values from the Chinese people. They waged the Cultural Revolution, in which they burned the Buddhist temples, the Taoist temple, all the spiritual belief system. They burned classic books and the classical art forms. They persecuted the intellectuals. My father was a professor, and because of that, our family was sent to a farm near the North Korean border in Jilin province. So I personally witnessed that period of time. So what Falun Gong stands for is really reconnecting the people of China to their spiritual past. This set of values in contrast with what the Communist Party believes in, which is violence, class struggle, deceptions, dictatorship, atheism. History has shown that persecution of any faith-based group or community will fail. In ancient Roman time, we have seen the Christians, despite 300 years of persecution, they later thrive. The same is true with the Falun Gong case. You can take away their life, take away their material things, even torture them, but you cannot take away their faith. This is why, historically, all the persecutions, regardless you're in the East or in the West, is doomed to fail. And this is what's happening here today. It's only that this persecution is now worldwide. You have transnational repression now here in America now from the CCP. And this is why this is alarming. You know, we are an open society, a free country. Here we've seen dozens of the mass shooting, bombing threats to American individuals and entities such as Falun Gong practitioners, Falun Gong run companies, and American theaters that host Shen Yun performing arts company shows. And the theater receive with picture of bullets and a gun and the threats of mass shooting. And also bomb threats, not only in the United States, in Canada, in France, in other countries as well. How can we allow communist regime to operate like this in the United States, in our own backyard?
So we've written in the past about how Chinese consulates have been writing to theaters, essentially kind of veiled threats to try to prevent Shen Yun from being shown at those theaters. You're telling me now this has escalated to anonymous bomb threats and, frankly, like pictures of bullets being sent. I can't help but think about how, you know, thrilled the Chinese regime is with this New York Times reporting, a series of articles, including even a hit piece on us for being a sponsor of the show. Now, why is the Chinese regime so obsessed with Shen Yun?
What Shen Yun stands for is what the Chinese traditional art form, traditional Chinese culture would be like without communism. This is why, you know, people from mainland China, they go to Japan and Taiwan to watch the show when they get a chance. People walk away after the show. You know, they feel, you know, wow, this is what China is like. We are really starting a renaissance of culture, traditional culture movement, a movement that will allow the Chinese people to reconnect with their own past and reconnect with their spiritual roots and reconnect with their traditional values without communism. And that's how powerful it is.
And Shen Yun actually does expose some of the persecution of Falun Gong.
Yeah, that's why the show is very powerful. It shows what happened, you know, China before communism, and what happens, you know, when communists is in charge of China, the persecution.